So a good workflow starts with the import. It starts with knowing where your pictures are going to be going and how to find them again, right? So we're in my import. I'm in Lightroom CC, but this works for Lightroom 4, 5, 6, and CC. So I'm going to go and I'm just going to click on import. Okay, now if you have a card reader hooked up, or a camera hooked up, then your source, it'll be a source up here for you. It'll be a source. You can choose that, or you may already have images on your hard drive that you want to import. So if you just installed Lightroom, you might have thousands of pictures on external drives or on your internal drive that you want Lightroom to know about, and you're going to add them to your catalog. So we'll talk about the catalog in just a second. So first I'm going to import. And I went ahead and to make things simple, I put this on my desktop just so I could quickly access it. And here they are right here. So here are some pictures that I'm going to import. And I have imported them before, but I reset them and threw them out so I could import them again for you. All right, so here I want to import. I have choices to add, move, copy, or copy as a DNG. Now, if they're already in some type of folder system that you like on your hard drive, whatever it's an internal or an external, then don't do move. Just copy them. You're just going to add them. Whew, don't copy them. You're just going to add them. So if they're already on your internal drive, so if you're taking notes, so internal drive or external drive, if you like the system you have, then you're just going to add them. You're just letting Lightroom know they exist. If you would like, if you think, oh, it's a stinky place, I want to move them, then we could move them here. Or if you have your camera hooked up or a card reader. So say I've taken some pictures and I took my card out, and I use a card reader is what I use. I put the card reader in and I plug it into my computer. It's going to show up as the drive. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to either copy them or copy as a DNG. And unfortunately, some people, bless their hearts, have made this mistake. And they've just chosen add. So they add those pictures, and then they delete their memory card. And then later when they want to go access it, they don't really have access to those pictures again, because in order to get to them, they have to plug in that card again. And I'll explain that in a minute. So you want to make sure when you're copying from a memory card that you copy or copy as a DNG. I'm not going to get into DNG right now. Okay, just know that if I shoot raw, I'm copying as a DNG. But if you're just shooting JPEG, just copy. Now, I already have these in here. And let's say this is where I want them to stay. And actually, it's just an alias. It's a shortcut. It's a shortcut to actually the Seagate 3. I just wanted to keep things simple tonight. And so I'm going to add them. But if they're already on a hard drive where you like them, just choose add. And then we're going to go through and decide a few things. One, are we going to build smart previews? And what a smart preview is, and this really will help your workflow, because if you're like me and you have a little itty bitty internal drive, I have to hook up an external drive anytime I want to access pictures, or I used to. Now I can build smart previews, which allows my original to be on an external drive, yet I can edit in Lightroom without hooking that drive up. So it gives me an editable version of the image to be able to edit. And when I finally want to export for print, that's when I have to hook up my hard drive. Okay? So build smart previews. Those are very, very handy. I like them. Next thing is add to a collection. And we're going to talk about collections, but know that if you're already using collections and you're not doing this right here, you need to add this to your workflow. Go ahead and add it to a collection in the import. It'll just save you time. So now I want to add it to a collection. I'm going to hit the plus sign, and I'm going to do March 20th webinar. It's inside the set of webinars. We're going to go over collections in just a minute. I'm just showing that it's a great option here to save me time, that I can create the collection on import. Now, apply during import. We want to, I want to add something like webinar samples There we go. Okay, have all that done. Now you see there's nothing left underneath here, right? There's nothing else. Watch what happens if I say I want to do copy. Let's pretend that I'm actually copying from a memory card, okay? So my collections and my smart previews, everything's there. Now we come down, we're offered file renaming, which I'm not going to get into tonight. Apply to an import, which we had before, and I added some keywords or some tags. And then we have destination. And this is where so many people rush through and then later like, Lightroom lost my pictures. Lightroom does not lose your pictures. You lost them on import because you did not tell Lightroom where to put them. So Lightroom just guessed. It did the last place you used, or it did, if you just installed Lightroom, it did some default setting, which I don't even remember now. You had to choose. Okay, so I have a couple hard drives. I got my internal, and then I have 3 externals. I'm not going to explain why. I just do, hooked up right now. I've been moving things around. All right, so we see that if I want to copy, this is where it's already set up, but this is the last folder I created. So if I don't change it, it's going to make a new folder with the name March 13 samples. And is that really what I want? I want March 20th samples to go in March 13th samples? No, I don't. But see, Lightroom is just remembering what I did last. And that is what confuses so many people and causes them to really not realize where their images are truly located on their drives. So destination. If you're taking notes, you need to write it in bold. Destination. Take time to do this. Take your time. Every single time you import, do not rush through this step. I promise if you do, it will haunt you. All right? And if you don't, it will save you time later. If you don't rush through this, if you take your time. So I don't want to create any new folder. It's already there where I want it because I'm not going to copy. I'm just going to add. So it went away. See that? But you want to make sure to take time to work through that destination process. Okay? And we've done other webinars on importing and exporting, and maybe we'll do one again in a few months, but you can look back. I don't know where you can access it. We'll figure it out. But there's some great blog posts on importing and exporting at prettypresets.com. Okay, so once I'm done with that, then I'm just going to do import. Okay, so I've imported. Now it's interesting because it's remembering, even though I got rid of them, I had color-coded some of these, and so it's remembering that. All right, so it's operating and it's making smart previews up here. We see in the folders, I'm going to do that here. In our collections, we come down here and we have it made a collection for me. Oh, I did not select the photos. Okay, so I'll need to do that. Let me go back. There we go. Or maybe I didn't put it into the right thing. Webinars. There it is. They went in. Okay, good. I just was ahead of the game. So if I go to the March 20th webinar, there are the images. So let's move up really quickly and talk about catalog. The catalog is just, it's like a virtual file cabinet. And you're letting Lightroom know that these images exist. Lightroom doesn't make copies of your pictures. Lightroom does not duplicate your images, which is the same thing as saying copy. It does not control your images. So if you crash Lightroom and uninstall, like if it's constantly crashing and you uninstall Lightroom, your pictures don't go with Lightroom. Your pictures are existing on your internal drive or an external drive. I promise that's where they are. Lightroom will not take them with it. I uninstalled Lightroom just a couple weeks ago and reinstalled it, and everything was still there. So Lightroom is just a virtual file cabinet for you, and you're letting Lightroom know these pictures exist, and it creates these little virtual links, little threads of how to get to it. Okay, so once you have imported, then you want to either make a collection. If you don't have Lightroom CC or Lightroom 6, and I don't know if that new import feature is in Lightroom 6. It's hard for me to remember what came in with 6 and what is just CC because they add things and it's all confusing in my mind. All right, if you don't have, say if you have Lightroom 3, 4, or 5, then here you want to create a collection. And collections, you can have one picture in 20 different collections, and as soon as you edit that one picture, that it's going to show up in all of those collections. And it's not that it made lots of different copies of the image, it's lots of different little links of how to get to it. So I have these pictures in the March 20th, but let's say I want to have them in workflow. Okay, there we go. Now I've got, it went from 5 to 20. I drug them in there. If I click in here, there they are. All right, I could have them in, and I've highlighted all of them by doing Control A or Command A. And let's say I want to do, let's do start to finish. Whoops, back up there. Okay, then we can add it to it. And if I edit the picture, whichever collection I'm in, and I edit the picture, those edits will show up because it's really just one link. It's just showing up in lots of different collections. Okay, the nice thing about collections too is that we get to access them in the develop panel. And I'll show you that in a minute. Now the other thing you need to do, and just take time to do this, I promise it will save you later, is create some keywords. I call them tags sometimes, either way, keywords, tags, some people call them labels, whatever you want to call them. So these are where we get really specific. I get kind of general in collections. I get real specific in with keywords. Now the keywords we did on import, those are that applies to the whole kit and caboodle, everything you're importing. So if you have some beach pictures and some mountain pictures and some wedding pictures, you can't select individual ones and tag them in import. It's all or nothing. So you have to do something real general or leave it blank, and then get specific in once you've imported them. So here, here I might just tag those, and I come in and I'll say sisters, which I think they're sisters. Some of these are, some of these I would just, I don't know what I'd call this. I don't know where they are. Mountain pics. And you can just get specific. So if there's some with your son on a scooter, write scooter. If he's in the tub pictures, you know, whatever you want. Because later, you won't remember that you took them on March 20th, 2016. But if you came in and you did a search, so if we did a search, if I'm in my keyword list, all right, come on now, and I start searching, there we go. Oh, it ran it together. Okay, so then mountain pictures, or if I did sisters, it'll find them. Let me go back to my catalog. I want all. Okay. So if I'm in my entire catalog, so we've got 4,744 pictures we'd have to sort through. But if I came over here into the keyword list and just started typing sisters, those 2 pictures would show up for me. So I was able to find 2 specific pictures out of 4,744 pictures. It's very handy to have those keywords. And don't worry about having a lot of keywords. On my main catalog, I must have 300 keywords. But I don't sort through it. I just use this search feature up here at the top. Okay. So now, I know it's kind of fast, but it's just the way it has to be tonight. I'm sorry. So we can spend more time on the editing side. So get your import correct. Pay attention to your destination. Super important. Second, tag those pictures. Give them keywords. Put them in some collections. The nice thing too is that when you put them in a collection, then down here we only have those specific pictures. Whereas people will import, and I honestly have heard this many times. They're like, well, I import, and then as soon as I edit them, I delete them out. I'm like, why do you do that? Well, they say they go to develop, and they don't like having all these pictures, thousands of pictures in the film strip down here. And I'm like, but you don't have to have that there. If you add them to collections or keywords, when you go over to edit, that's all that's in there. That's all you're going to see is the collection. So don't delete as soon as you import. Please stop doing that. If you're doing that and you think, oh, it's a great process, it really isn't. It will bite you in the tail eventually. Keep your images. Once you've added them to the catalog, keep them there. But manage them with collections and keywords. Collections and keywords. So when I come over here now to my March 20th, oh, look at my film strip. That's all that's in there. So that's all I have to see. All right, so now let's talk about editing. So the thing to know about editing is that there's a variety of ways to go about it. And you're going to hear from different people with different workflows in terms of the editing, not just like from start to finish, but the editing, what they do in the develop module. Some people will do global edits first, and then brushes, and then presets, or presets, then brushes, then global tweaks. It just depends. So what you're going to hear tonight is just mine, just what works for me. And if you find one that works different, or is different and works better for you, hey, I am thrilled. Everybody is different, and it's not going to be one size fits all. Just like the presets are not one size fits all, workflows are not one size fits all. Adobe gives us lots of different ways to do the exact same thing because they know that different steps or different methods are going to work for different people. Okay, so what I like to do, and these are all pictures that were not taken by me. Lori, you have to let me know who took these because I forgot. But somebody else was gracious and let us use these, and they are gorgeous images and gorgeous backdrops, scenery and landscapes, and I love it. But I did not take these, and the reason I chose these for tonight is because the setting is pretty much the same. The white balance is pretty much the same for two separate groups. So I can edit one and sync to the others, and that's what I wanted to show tonight. So that's why I chose these particular ones, just because that was what was offered up to me to use, and out of a bunch, and I use these because I could, they make great examples for that. All right, so what was my point? Okay, all right, okay, so I'm going to do some minor tweaks if it's really bothering me, but these, honestly, for the most part, these first few, are the exposure is good, the white balance is a little off, but the exposure is really, really good. And so there's nothing really bothering me that is screaming at me. But if I was at home editing things, the very first thing I would do is tweak the white balance, because that is the only thing I see that is saying, hey, this needs help. And I notice that it's the same on all of these. Okay, and it's just a little off. And I know you're probably thinking, oh, it looks great. What are you talking about? Well, as soon as I do it, you'll see that it was a little off. So I'm going to do it on this first one. And how I'm going to do it is with the eyedropper here. And I'm just going to click, and I'm just going to show you, because a lot of times I'll tell people to change the white balance by clicking on the whites of the eyes. But then I get the question, well, what if there's no whites of the eyes? Well, then I just say, click on something that looks neutral to you. So I'm going to click down here in this gray area. All right, so a big difference. And let you see it? We'll zoom in a little bit. Okay, big difference, right? Now, I want to make sure I didn't get too cool, and it needs a little tweaking. I didn't. Okay. It's a little greenish to me, so what I'm going to do is come over here. I could keep clicking around, but I might say, I'm going to stop there, and I'm just going to come over and just tweak this a little bit towards the magenta. Just a little bit. That was probably too much. and maybe warm it up just a little bit. Okay, I think that's okay. A little bit more. All right, so we see not a huge difference, but a difference, definitely a difference. And now you see that this is a little off and this is much better. So that's, if I'm going to do any global tweaks before I work with brushes, it's going to be with the white balance. Now I'm going to do a few other tweaks. I'm going to do some editing in the basic panel, and then in a little bit we're going to show editing with presets. So I'm just going to bump up the exposure just a little bit. Oh, okay. And I'm going to pull this a little bit, the blacks over just a little bit. I know I've got some highlight clipping, but I think it's deep in her down there, so I don't care about that. Brighten up the shadows just a little bit. Increase the clarity, increase the vibrance. Okay, so I'm just doing a few little tweaks, global tweaks. Generally what I do is I do the white balance and then I use brushes, but I'm going to show a few basic panel tweaks. Now, what I'm going to do is create a snapshot. So I'm going to do Command N or Control N, and I'm just going to do clean, basic, clean, edit. Alrighty. And what that did is it created a snapshot over here. It's underneath the preset panel, it's snapshots. And it's just a moment in time that I can get back to anytime I want to. And I'm going to show you how I use clean snapshots for my workflow. All right, so now if I wanted to do any specific things to it, like with a brush, then I'll do that. And I'm going to choose Add Light. I'm using brushes from the Perfect Portrait Brush collection. And I'm going to reduce my flow a little bit, make my brush bigger by pushing out on a scroll wheel, a mouse with a scroll wheel, and I just pushed away and it makes it bigger. And if I pull back, it makes it smaller. If you don't have a mouse with a scroll wheel, then right bracket key makes it bigger, left bracket key makes it smaller. And the bracket keys I'm talking about are next to the letter P on your keyboard. So if you look at the letter P, go to the right, and there's bracket keys. Right bracket key, left bracket key. So I brightened up her face just a little bit. I'm going to click New. So hopefully y'all are able to attend. Many of you are able to attend the mastering brushes and last week. If not, the recording is available now. I'm just going to smooth her skin a little bit. But now it's turning red. Why would it be turning red when before I used the brush and it didn't turn it red? This is because I have the mask overlay on, and what that does, it just helps me see where I'm going quickly. It's all about speeding up your workflow so you're spending less time editing pictures. So sometimes this mask overlay is very beneficial in letting us know where we've been, so you don't spend time thinking, oh, did I get that? Did I get that? You can turn it off and on very quickly by the letter O on your keyboard. So I just smoothed your skin a little bit. And I'm going to do New. And this time I'm just going to go up to the Fix Cast Red and get this a little bit. Click New in between your brushes. I am going to eye sharpen. Zoom in again. And if I want to, I'm just going to brighten up her eyes just a little bit. Everything here. The best changes are the subtle changes. Subtle changes, okay? And then add a little. I'll do this little eyeliner. Just a little bit. Just gives us a little more detail. Okay, now, something I did I don't care for, and I brightened her eye just a little bit too much, the eye socket area. So now I'm just going to click on them until I see which one it was. It's that one. Okay. Bring this down a little bit. Alrighty. So we quickly went from that to that, before to after. And I'm going to save it again. So clean edit with brushes. There's before the brushes. There's after the brushes. Before, after. Subtle changes are the best. They really are. Okay, so now let's say, okay, I'm really happy with this. Now I'm gonna play with presets a little bit. And this is when I would, if you've not made a snapshot yet, you would want to make a snapshot now. Command N or Control N. N is in Nancy. And I'm going to be using some from the Summer Limited Edition because that sale runs out tonight, and I thought maybe a few of you might want to get it. I'm going to use Boho Chick 2. Try that out. Now, some of my changes over here might be interfering with it, so we'll see. And then we have Meadow. All right. Summer Dreaming. Oh, I really like that. Okay. Now notice that over here, it changed my settings. Presets will overwrite those global, most often they will overwrite those global changes you made because these sliders cannot be in two places at once. So if you do some edits and then you run a preset, it is likely going to change some or all of your sliders that you did adjust. That's why a lot of times I will just tweak the white balance, then I'll use brushes if I know I'm going to use presets. All right, because then I'll just go straight from brushes to the presets. And then I can tweak from there. If we decide, okay, well, we want to see what it is, make sure I can just reset the whole thing. And you can see that it might work different on it. Let's see. So there's Boho Chick, and it looks different now than when I had done some changes, okay? And we might come in and say, okay, we want to decrease the contrast, maybe increase the shadows a little bit, push that a little bit. And we might say, oh, we love it. Now, I undid all the brush changes, didn't I? It's all those brushes are gone. That's why I often just do my white balance and my brushes, because those brushes will stay with it. But I do like this. And this one was history. Now, I'm not going real fast, like working through this as fast as I would on my own, because I'm explaining everything. So, might be Boho Chick. I never get that right. Okay, there we go. All right, so that's the basic clean edit. That's clean it with brushes. That's Summer Dreaming with brushes because it kept the brushes. And then this is, I got to get that right. Yep, Boho Chick. Good, I got it right finally. All right, that is Boho Chick without the brushes. Okay, so let's say we get somewhere we really like it. I'm just going to go straight back to the clean it with brushes. So that's where we're going We're going to go. And there's more we could do to it, but this is just a basic clean edit. Basic, right? Just bare bones, basic. And I might say, okay, I'm just going to keep it here, and I want to sync it to the other pictures in the same setting. Well, these pictures are in the same setting. See all those? So I'm going to come back to the one I edited, and I'm going to hold my shift key down, and then I'm going to click on the last one that's in the same light and setting. These others look like they're in the same area, but it's different lighting. So here I'm going to highlight these, and then at the bottom of this right side panel, I'm going to click on Sync. Now I can click Check All, and it checks everything, white balance, all, if we did anything with tone curve, if we did anything. But I don't want to sync the brushes. Now, I didn't use graduated filters yet, but I might just unsync all local adjustments. If we did any spot removal, we'd uncheck that. Okay, because you don't want that to move over. Actually, let me cancel this. And let's say we want to do a little bit. Where is it? There it is. Okay. So I'm going to add a little bit of sharpening, a little vignette, and I'm happy. Okay, that's what I wanted to do. And now I'm going to sync. So if we look at these others, and we do it before and after, there we go. This, and it looked beautiful, didn't it? Before we saw that the white balance was off and tweaked it. This is much more natural, and it looks like it came out of the camera that way, doesn't it? Okay, much better. Much better. Now, what I like is that I can create virtual copies of these other images. I can create virtual copies of these other images, and the snapshots go with it, and I'll show you why that matters. So now, I'll come back to my original here, and I'm going to right-click, and I'm going to choose Create a Virtual Copy. So now I've got a copy of this one. And I can actually do all of it. I can highlight all these and come here, Create Virtual Copies. So now each of them have one copy. And I'm going to go to the copy. So the copy has a little corner turned up, doesn't it? See the corner turned up? I'm going to come over here to my snapshots. And I am going to choose the Summer Dreaming. Okay, so now it's got the Summer Dreaming version, right? And I can pick all of these snapshots and sync those. So now I've got two versions. I've got this good clean edit, and a clean edit means it looks like it makes the image look as good as possible, but still looks like it came out of the camera that way. Okay, so somebody will look at it and think, man, your camera's fantastic. You know, that's a joke because we know that it's the photographer, right? Not the camera. And then we have a sunny, hazy version as well. And you can export both at the same time. All right, so we could highlight all of these and export all of these at once. So then you could give your client or yourself those two different options to print. Okay, that's real important. So snapshots, I make all my snapshots, and then I create the virtual copy because the virtual copies will stick with it. I'm going to do it again on another one. I'll be a little bit quicker this time. So this one I wanted to show because it has this haze. And I'm going to show you how this is very different editing than this one. All right, so I'm just going to show you this one quickly. All right, so when you have haze like this, you notice how this histogram is far away from this left-hand side. And what we want, if you want to get rid of the haze, you may love the haze and embrace the haze, and that is A-okay. This flare, you know, this sun haze coming through here. But let's say you didn't want it. You wanted to have it be more vivid and bold. Well, what we can do is first fix that and come down here to your blacks and pull that black slider over. Keep pulling it over, till it almost hits or does hit this left-hand side. So it really did darken that image. The next thing I'm going to do is fix that white balance. I'm just going to click over here where it's kind of gray. And it's a little greenish. I might click again or click on her. So I clicked right there on her outfit. It's a little warm for me, so I might pull it back a little bit. Or if I come back over here and click, I kind of, it's a little warm. Okay, I'm a little cool, so I had to warm it up a little bit. All right, so we went from much hazier, and the white balance is a little off, to a little bit more vivid color, a little bolder, and white balance that's better. Okay, so what you do is you pull that black slider until the histogram mountain moves over to the left, and then you're going to cut through some of that haze. If I did a few more tweaks, I would I like brighten up the shadows just a little bit, add a little contrast, a little vivid, a little clarity. She still needs some work with a brush, okay? But it's a big improvement from that. Okay, now editing this one would not take as much because we don't have that sun flare to combat, do we? And we notice that the histogram mountain is further over. So if we added this contrast to this one, it might overdo it. So I'll just try that real quick. It didn't do too bad. No, it did pretty good. So it still worked for it. Might be a little bit darker than I wanted. So just brighten this one up a little bit. Just a little bit. So you can edit these because it's pretty much in the same setting. So we've got this hill behind them, and she's getting this beautiful backlight coming where the sun is coming over that hill. All right, so we can come through without, I'm not done any brushes, anything like that, and we can sync these. Now these are a little bit different, so we're going to see this. The white balance is a little bit different on these, and I'm going to sync. Might be overly warm on these, but this one looks good. Alrighty, but now these I think made it too warm. Made it too warm, didn't it? So these need a different white balance. So I'm gonna click on this one right here. And I'll reset it. A little too cool. Move that back. Too green. I'm also going to try flash. Pretty good. Auto's doing about the same as flash, isn't it? We do add a shot, I'll show you. See, it's a lot of magenta in it, and too cool. A lot of magenta. It's too much. So if you're not confident with the eyedropper, try flash or auto. I often don't get what I want in auto, but flash, for some reason, often does well. Here it's still a little, I don't know, need something. So I'm gonna tweak a few things first. Really don't want to brighten the background. I just want to brighten her. So if you don't want to brighten the background, you just want to brighten the subject, that's when you need to go to the brush or to a radial filter. That is what you need for local adjustments. Okay, local adjustments require a local adjustment tool like the brush or a graduated filter. And that's too much, definitely too much. So I'm going to turn that aside, back it way down. I turned it on its side. See this little triangle up here at the top, top right-hand corner of the brush. Turn on it, and then I reduce the amount till it's just a little bit. Just enough. There's before, there's after. Just enough. Okay, so now if we think, okay, this is a good white balance, we can try and sync it with those other pictures. And we'll synchronize. Now this is much improved, but too light. So good point here. These over here, I could sync very quickly. The exposure was very consistent. Where here, we've got different subjects and different lighting. And so sometimes, even after you sync, you might have to go in and tweak one a little bit. So here, we definitely need to brighten up the exposure some. Give a little vibrance, a little clarity, a little contrast. Okay. Now, honestly, I don't ever, I won't say I don't ever. I seldom do these tweaks over here. I use presets. I just do. Let's do. I either use creative color edits presets, or I use a workflow presets. And what I mean by that is, and I'm going to reset this one, turn it to Y. And I use the workflow, Pretty Presets workflow, or Clean and Creative workflow, there are some presets that I know have phenomenal effect. Okay, and so once you get to know your presets, you'll know the ones that just do a fantastic job of being that exact one you need it to be. All right. Now for a workflow, what I thought I'd show you, because this is all about workflow. If you want to try one of these out, the Pretty Presets workflow set is a good one. And you go through and just click on what you need. So I might want to soften. You can try the all-in-one clean edit, but here our biggest problem is the white balance. Now, white balance, we may not be able to fix it with this. All right. So you may still have to come in here with the eyedropper and find a white balance that works well. And here I'm going to zoom in and get her eyes. All right, I'm just going to warm it up a little bit. Okay, so that was one that I did with the dropper. All right, then I might come in and say, okay, maybe we have a little bit of reds, fixed reds. I could do a little bit of a color pop, which there's not much color in this image. I need a little bit of contrast. I can brighten a little. If we have any exposure clipping, we can reduce that. If we have any noise, because it's underexposed and we brightened, we have noise. So I did the noise reduction low, sharpen for portraits, do a little vignette. If we need to cool it or warm it, we could do that here, but I've already fixed it to what I want it to be. I might tweak it just a little bit like that. Okay, so with just a few clicks, and this is without brushes or anything, just a few clicks of the workflow, we went from before to after. That was click, click, click. I did my white balance, softened the picture a little bit, fixed reds, exposure brighten, noise reduction, sharpening, and vignette. Contrast and a little color. So this very, very, very fast. That's what I use. So I speed my workflow with the workflow presets. Or there's particular presets I know I love and I love to use, and I'm running out of time here. So, but once you do that, then you can sync this as well. And I'm going to show you how you can sync backwards. All right, so we're here at the bottom, last one. We can still sync forward, backwards. So I can say, okay, I want to sync these with this one. See this one right here that I started with is a little bit brighter than these other ones. This is the anchor. So this is saying, okay, this is the one we're going to hold as the ideal, and that's what we're going to sync to. So we can sync everything. Of course, I've unchecked the local adjustments, and I'll hit synchronize. Now, we did a lot of brightening. So again, here, it may have over brightened this one. So we might fix this one a little bit and say, no, we don't need it to be quite as bright. Might pull that one down a little bit. Okay. If we want to create some virtual copies and add presets to those, we can do that as well. But I'm kind of running out of time, so I just want to show, I'm going to show these right here with exporting. Okay, so we have our clean edit, and then we have a creative, a light and sunny, airy feeling. Okay, so I highlight all of them, and then I'm going to go to File and Export. And you can export from the Library module or the Develop module. Now, just like I said on the import, people mess up the destination and it causes them to be a pain in the tushy later. Exporting and then not realizing where they actually went will give you just as much of a headache. Okay, so always remember and pay attention to where things are going on import and then where things are going on export. Don't rush through this, because I promise you, Lightroom is only ever remembering what you did last. So if you did some weird kind of crazy export last, where you did something really special and unique and you put it to this one place or whatever, and for that one particular thing, if you have this other, you import some pictures, you edit, and you export, guess what? It's going back to that same exact weird place that you did before, unless you change it. That's so important. You've got to take time on import and export. And it's probably where people spend the least amount of time. All right, so exporting. You have to decide where you want it to go. Oftentimes, what I really like is the same folder as the original. And then what I do is I put it in a subfolder, and if I'm exporting for the web, it goes in a web folder. If I'm exporting for print, it goes in a print folder. Whoops. Okay, print. All right, so what it's going to do is it's going to go back to the original folder where these images are, and it's going to make a new subfolder, print, and that's where all these are going to go. I do not choose add to this catalog, and there are a handful of occasions I have chosen to do it, like twice in 5 years. But for the most part, I do not choose to add to the catalog, because you have the originals and you have these edits, which are just virtual edits, right? Because Lightroom doesn't overwrite your images ever. These are all virtual edits until you export, and then they get applied. So I choose not to add them to the catalog because I have the originals. All right, then do I want to rename them? And what I typically rename them to is something with print at the end of the name, or web. So if these are going to be for print, I'll do, sometimes I do edit P. It just depends. Sometimes just edit, sometimes print. It really depends on the mood or the year. Okay, so I keep the original name, original file name, and you can get rid of all this. People get very overwhelmed by this screen, and I know because I was there. When I first started with Lightroom, I'm like, what the heck is all these little options? I don't understand. Clear this out and go through and just click and see what happens. You will learn so much just by trying things out. So file name, or file number suffix, or folder name, just click and see what happens. So I'm going to insert the file name. There it goes. Then I could say, all right, insert the original number suffix. All right, well, there that went. That's the thing on the end, which I don't want to do that. So come in, I'm going to delete that. Now, what if I insert it? I'm like, oh, I don't want that. I could delete it, or I could click here and change it. All right, you don't have to just delete it. You might choose something else within those options. What I typically do is I typically do the file name, I do an underscore, and then something like edit, or if it's for the web, I do web. It's just what works for me. But you can choose sequence, date. There's all kinds of things that you can change it. And then the nice thing is that if you tend to do the same things for web and for print, or for particular type shooting, say your wedding photography or your newborn photography, then you can create presets. And these are just naming presets. All right, so here I might save it, and I'm just going to say basic name print. Can't type tonight. So it gives you a list. So you can see all the different lists of names that I have created, naming presets. And I'm going to hit done. All right, so now it's showing me, here's the file name, all right, and then I have edit on the end of it. File settings, I want to export to a JPEG. Make sure your quality is at 100, please, please, please. This often, I think, when you first install Lightroom, it's at like 72 or something. Move that up to 100. You want your color space to be sRGB for most print labs. All right. If you are for print, I tend to not resize, but I do want my resolution to be anywhere from 240 to 300. Okay, it just depends. 240 really is often good enough, but 300, what do I want to sharpen for? Matte paper and standard or high. It just depends on where you print. So this is for print. Okay, these are for print. And then I would hit export. A lot of times I choose right here to see where it says show in Finder because I like to see that it's been done. Now this is for print. If I wanted to do for web, I would come in here and do web. And then I have one for web files. You can see it adds web to the end. I am going to resize it. And then say I've put this on Facebook. You can do width or height. You can also just do long edge. That's what I typically do. And let's say I don't want the long edge to be any more than 2000. So if it's a horizontal image, that means that that's the longest edge. It will be no more than 2000. If it's a portrait orientation, which means it's a vertical image, then that side will own the horizontal. I mean, the vertical will not be any more than 200, and it's going to shrink it proportionally. So it's not going to be this weird squished thing. And for resolution, I want 72. That's really all that you need for the web. I'm going to sharpen for screen, and I think I tend to do low, and then I will add a watermark. It's just what I like to do. Now with watermarks, you can add, you can change it around. It could be anything. So let me do edit watermarks. And you see here it's saying Amanda Paget photography. Well, this is not my photography. So we can do pretty presets sample. All right, so I typed in a new some new text, and it shows up right here. We can change the font. So I could change the font to anything I want it to be. Let's say Halo hand letter, which is cursive. You do want to make it so it's easy to read. I will say that. All right, so something, you can be basic, it can be fancy, whatever you want it to be. And you can add a shadow or not. I tend to not add a shadow, but you can. The opacity, how opaque it is. So here it's very bold. Here it's more opaque. All right, we can make it bigger by doing the size proportional. All right, yeah, you can do fit, so it'll fit in with that. Don't do fill, that never really works. Okay, and then you can inset it. So here you can see that I've moved it up 5. I've moved it in 5 and up 7. I can show you here. So here I'm filling it out more, or I'm making it a little smaller. Move it up, bring it back down. You can also anchor it in different places. We can say put it up here, which is because of this inset, there we go. We can put it in the middle, put it on the corner, but come back here if we want it to be smaller. There we can see it. Okay. Put it in the middle, put it on the side, put it up there. And even when you do that, you can move it around a little bit. See that? Okay, once you do that, you can save it. And so you can have lots of different watermarks. I have made lots of different watermarks as an example. That probably can't get access to it. I've moved things around. Right, so different watermarks I've saved. So there's the Pretty Presets logo. If you have a logo That's a PNG, meaning it's a clear background. You can bring it in as a graphic and save it. And if that don't work, it's because I've moved it. Okay, I've moved the original file and it can't find it. All right, so I'll put done. And we could have moved that around. Anyway, and if I choose to export, we'll see them. So it's exporting 12 files. I'm not doing too bad. It's right at 7. And it was hard to squeeze all this in an hour. This could be like a 3-hour topic. It really could. And then I could go slower. Okay, so here I have it open so I can see it. And see, it's in a folder. If you can tell, it's in a folder down here, the web folder. And then they each have web and web 2. So here is the original and here is the duplicate or the virtual copy, right? Y'all can see that. There we go. So we have our original and our copy. Our original and our copy. Original, whoops, yep, and the copy. All right, original and the copy. So it's very fast. You know, my edit of it was very fast, but then I went on to edit some more. But anyway, the process would have been very, very quick. I did not do brush work other than on this one, though. All right. All right. Okay. All right, do I need to create a catalog every time I import a new session to edit? Is creating collections easier than catalogs? Now, the one who asked that was a good question, and believe it or not, a lot of people have made the mistake of creating a new catalog for every single shoot, and you don't need to do that. So I helped somebody one time, and she had like 150 catalogs. You don't need more than 1 or 2 catalogs, okay? One, really, most people can do everything with one, because what you can do is, oops, close that down. So we're in the library. You could have one collection for family, a set. So we could have a set. So I have Paget family set. And then you can have sets for each child or for events. So we could have Paget family, then we can have Christmases, vacations, which we never go on vacation, but you know, normal people do, but we don't. So everybody else would have vacations. We have staycations is what we have. And so you can have sets. And inside the sets, and so they've got virtual sets here. I don't have anything in them. Inside the sets, you can have multiple collections. All right. So here, if you have a photography, you can have a set of that business. And on my PC catalog, I have a set for newborns. I have a set for headshots. I have a set for weddings or bridal, because I have just taken bridal pictures. I have just done reception. I have done a wedding. So headshots, newborn, weddings. What else have I done? Seniors, like senior high school seniors. What else have I done? Families. So I'll have a set for each one. And then inside that set, so if say for the newborns, I have on my PC one, I have like 6 newborns that I've done. So it has Paget photography and then my different little types of photography, newborn, wedding, so on. So if I open up the newborn one, then you'd see 6 collections for different babies. Does that make sense? So most people can get away with one catalog. Now, if you are really heavy duty and you're really busy, you may choose, okay, I want one catalog for my photography business, and I want one catalog for my personal pictures. And it's real easy to do that, to separate that out. You can export a collection so you can get all your family, or you can sort by, for all family pictures, and then you can export that as a catalog. Let's see if I, okay. There we go. So I clicked on this American Girl doll trip, and then I right-clicked on it, and I come down, and it says export these photos as a catalog. So let's say you have all of your family photos keyword with family photos or something, then you can export that as a specific catalog. You can do the same thing for a collection. All right, so if you have them all in a collection, then you can export this catalog, this collection as a catalog. When I do that, it gives me the choice. What do I want to name this? And then you can just name it. Business photos or family photos, whatever. And it's going to create a whole new catalog with those particular images in it. But that was a very good question. And you can bounce between your catalogs. So I'm in Lightroom right now in the quick -2. I can go to recent and I can go to the Lightroom 5, which I have not opened that up in years, or over a year now, I guess. And I could go to that. Almost a year. What was it, May? So no, not years. Almost a year. I can go back to that one, which is really the same thing because I just upgraded it, so I don't know why it's still there. All right. Good question. Okay. Okay, so collections are just virtual. So I told you a catalog is like a virtual file cabinet. So each of those, let's say you have a big, huge file cabinet. It's like 5 rows of cabinets. Five columns, 5 towers of cabinets, and each tower has like 4 drawers. So we have 5 times 4, we've got 20 drawers. So that might be 20 different collections. We pull up in that drawer, and those will be sets. And then inside that set, we can have file folders or envelopes full of pictures, which are the collections, sorry. So think virtual. And collections are the way to go. I love collections. Where did I pull the eyedropper from? Good questions. My husband asked tonight, he goes, and I've been doing these webinars for years. Let me go real quick. I'm going to diverge something. I'm going to jump over. One thing I said why collections were so handy is you can access the collections in the develop module. So notice I'm in the develop module, and I clicked on another collection, but I want to go back to the one we were in. So down below, the history. So we have presets, snapshots, history, then collections. I can go back to my collections that I was in. So you can bounce around, and that's what's so great about collections, whereas you can't bounce around between keywords in develop module. You have to go back to the library, click on that keyword, go back over. So I use keywords to help me find the needle in the haystack. I use collections to help me manage what I'm doing over in the develop module. Oh, and so I was going to tell you, my husband just today said, so when you do these webinars, do you ever get any questions? And I was like, yes, I answer questions. And he goes, so does that bother you if people ask questions? I was like, no, it doesn't bother me if people ask questions. That's my favorite part. I want to say, where have you been for the past, how long have we been doing these, Laura? 4 years? Do I take questions, or do I like the questions? I love the questions. It's my favorite part. Okay, so the eyedropper. Okay, so I'm a little goofy tonight. All right, so the eyedropper is in the basic panel. So you see histogram, then we see our local adjustments, and then we see the basic panel. The eyedropper is right here. And now, one thing I'll tell you is I turn off this auto dismiss because it just irritates me. I'm going to check it just so you can see what it does. So let's say I click here and think, okay, this might be good. And we can get a preview of what the white balance will be in the navigator. But sometimes it's tiny and I can't really get a real good look. So click there. Well, it jumped back over here. So then I got to click it again and then, click somewhere else. And it jumps back over here again. I don't care for that. Some people love it. It doesn't work for me. So if it does not work for you, turn off the auto dismiss. If you're not seeing this panel at the bottom, hit T on your keyboard. So I'm going to make it go away. So this is how things accidentally just disappear in Lightroom. I learned this the hard way. If you accidentally hit the T key on your keyboard while you were editing, you've lost your toolbar. That means if we went to the brush, there's no toolbar. So if you're thinking, Amanda, you're talking about the mask, I don't see that. There's nothing down here. Hit T on your keyboard. And now we can choose to show selected mask overlay. Or if we're in the white balance, the eyedropper, now we can choose auto dismiss. So just click T on your keyboard. T makes it go away, but T makes it come back. Okay. But now to get rid of it, you gotta either click done or I just go and put it back. That's a good question. All right. So the question is, so the hand edits won't disappear when you apply presets. So I think what you mean, like the edits I've already done won't disappear when you apply preset. Kelly, yes and no. What will disappear possibly is tweaks we've made over here. So if I reset this and then I do a few tweaks, okay. All right, tweak it up a little bit more. All right, so we see we've done a few things here. And then if I do a brush, I'll brighten her up a little bit. And then I'm gonna add just a little bit of skin smoothing. The higher your flow, the redder your mask will be. Okay, oops, I just moved it by accident. If you click and drag that pen, you will move everything you've brushed as well. All right. What I just did there, this will stay whether we click on 50 presets or one preset, it's going to stay. Because the presets, when they create them, there's not the option to overwrite the brushes. But what may be overwritten are these sliders over here. So I'm just going to do small tweaks. I'm naming it something. Okay, so I made some small tweaks. And now if we use presets, then I'm going to try and use one down here. Let's see. Which one was it? Okay, so I'm going to do Clover. And watch these. And they may change it, they may not. It depends on what was used when they created the preset. They may have only used tone curve. They may have only used HSL. They may have only used split toning, or they may have used some combination of it. If they use any of these sliders, then it will override it. All right. Okay, so it didn't use any of these, but what it did do is reset these to 0. See that? And that's okay, because they wanted these to be 0 while they were doing something else. These may change. Now, what didn't change, if I click my brush and move in, see my pins? My brushes stayed there. So your brushes will stay. Your radial filters may not stay, because those can be saved in a preset, and so it will override any radial filters you've done or graduated filters, but you cannot save a brush. So it will never. That's why I tend to barely tweak I just tweak my white balance, and I generally use brushes. And then I use presets. Okay. Why do I use snapshots versus virtual copies? Great question. It's one I always get, and I know it's a little confusing, but I promise once you get the hang of snapshots, you will use them. I promise. All right. So let me do this one right here. Okay. So I have a little clean edit. We look at my snapshots. What do I have here? Let's go down. So no snapshots. I'm going to do one. Clean edit. All right. Then if I apply some presets, so I might say, okay, I like that one. All right, I'm going to reset it. And I might say, All right, olive branch, beautiful. And then maybe, yep, so I've got 3 versions. I cannot export all these at once with this one picture. And I'm going to pretend this, I'm going to get rid of this virtual copy. Oh, I just need to delete it. Okay. All right, so we have this one that I edited right there. It has 3 snapshots. It has Cafe au lait, Clean Edit, and Olive Branch. If I can export right now. If I export, then Olive Branch is what gets exported. If I'm on Clean Edit, that's what gets exported. Just one file. So I'd have to export 3 separate times, right? Now I do all my playing on one picture. So I do all these different takes. I call them outtakes, right? So I do like a clean edit, then a black and white, then like an urban or a vintage, because just because I like a particular, color variation doesn't mean somebody else doesn't like a different one, like the client. So I give them a choice. Here's these 4, which would you like, or which would you like to print large, or what, whatever, what's your style? And some will say, oh, I love all the black and whites, or, oh, I love this olive branch look. This is what I want. They're not going to say olive branch. They're going to say number 3 or whatever it is, right? But, so I do all my takes on one, and then I create virtual copies. So I right click and create a virtual copy. I'll do it again. And I'm sure there's some shortcut for creating a virtual copy. I don't know it. All right. So now I have 4 versions. I have the original plus 3 virtual copies. And I can come in to this next one and say, okay, I don't want Olive Branch. I want the Clean Edit. I'm going to come to this next one and say, nope, I want Cafe au lait. And on this next one, I might say, I'm going to reset it, and this is going to be straight at the camera. So I can highlight and export all 4 at once. But I did all my editing on one. And then here's the thing I really like to do. So let's say I export them, and she chooses Olive Branch or whatever. She wants Olive Branch and Cafe au lait. There you go. That's what she gets. Then later in the library, once I'm done with a shoot, let's see, because I did a wedding reception in the fall, and once I'm done, I go in and I sort by virtual copy, and I get rid of all the virtual copies, because for me, it's a lot of eye clutter. I have trouble focusing when I have 15 different versions of the same picture, which not 15, but 3 or 4, right? And so, but you can sort by virtual copies, and I probably have saved it. Yep. All right. So here, I am just seeing the virtual copies, and then I get rid of them. I get rid of them. And here you can see, so we've sorted by the virtual copy right there, the kind. It's under Attribute, and then click on the virtual copy. And then I just say Control-A or Command-A, and I delete. And I get rid of them because I don't need to see them. I have all of my edits on the one via the snapshots. The snapshots have all my various edits. So if later I need to go and export another version, I can go back to it, click on Olive Branch, and export it. That's why I choose snapshots versus virtual copies. And I do use the virtual copies, but then I get rid of them. But I start with the snapshots. Give it a try. Just play with it. It really has worked for me over the years. I love snapshots. I'm sure those I have a few people come in regularly to all the webinars, and they will tell you that I talk about snapshots every single time. And what's nice is the snapshots here stay forever. There is a snapshot in Photoshop, but it goes away as soon as you close that file down. Here, I could open these pictures up in a month, a year, and the snapshots will stay with it. Will be right there for me. But a good question. And I always get it when I do the snapshots. Oh, somebody said I just blew her mind. I hope not too bad. I hope not too bad. Thank you, Loris. I'm actually doing pretty good. Just a little out of breath. I had to stay inside the past few days out of the pollen. Whew, it was bad, but I was doing very poorly Friday evening. I needed an inhaler. Let's see. Okay, I did do the print. So many good questions. I can't answer all of them. Okay, Sadiq, you asked how did I get to that page? So let me know what page it was. Was it the print page? Was it the watermarks? Like, let me know. Lynn asked, do you recommend always adjusting the white balance after the preset? Not always. Sometimes I like the tone it gave, but if it really adds a tone that's too cool to my eyes, that bothers me a little bit, then I'll tweak it just a bit. But I can do with most any tones except for it being too cool. But when you okay, so the question, to make sure I'm doing it right. Do I always adjust the white balance after preset? Well, let's say that you already have a pretty warm image straight out of the camera, and then you add a preset that adds a lot of warmth to it. Well, then you're going to want to tweak it. You're going to pull back that slider. So let's say, oops, get out of that. So for this one right here, let's say it overwarmed the image. And so if I saw that, so it was already warm, which it wasn't overly warm, but say it was already really warm, depending on the white balance that was you used in your camera at that time, the setting you had. Let's say it was really warm, and then we added a warm preset. Well, a really easy tweak is just to pull that temp slider towards the blue, and it's going to balance that over warmth, and it's going to pull and cool it down. Pull it towards the blue and cool it down. Good question. That was a great question. Okay, one more. I know I can go forever with the questions. I really, really could. Okay. Okay. Oh, good. Robin, I'm so glad that happened. She said, my snapshots menu isn't showing up. How can I get it to show up? All right, so if you're not even seeing the panel for snapshots, all right, if you're seeing presets, history, and collections, this is happening to you. Just right click, and then click on snapshots. Sometimes, who knows? Trust me, I lost one of my panels over here a couple years ago, and I thought, what the heck? Where'd it go? Like, I was like, what? How could my Lightroom be so broken? I think I'd lost tone curve or something. And when in doubt, right click. That's my trick for you. It's my cure-all. When in doubt, right click. All right. So right click, and whatever is unchecked, check it. So their tone curve is missing. Right click and then tone curve. Same for snapshots. You can also go to window, I believe. Yeah. And then in Photoshop, it's easier to get back to the things. There we go. Window, panels. Okay. And then it'll show them back up. And it'll open them up for you. It'll pop it there. All right. So snapshots will be empty until you take a snapshot. So let's say on this over here, oh, the snapshots came with that one. All right, so if I reset this, I can get rid of these. Let's see. Delete, reset, delete. Okay. All right. Now, if it's empty like this, then you make some changes. All right, so we make some changes, and then take a snapshot. So here, Command N, and I'm going to do white balance tweak. There we go. So that's all that's been done to this is a white balance tweak. And then your snapshots will start showing up. There we go. Phil said it for a virtual copy shortcut, and I know a lot of shortcuts, but I do not know the shortcut for the virtual copy. Probably because it seems it's the two-handed one. If it takes two, I tend not to do it that often. Two that are not real handy. Let's see, Command or Control and the apostrophe. So I'm gonna try that out right now. And I'm sure it's on a sheet that I've just not paid attention to. All right, Command and apostrophe. There we go. I do need to remember that one. I knew there was one. I just had not committed it to memory. All right, so keyboard shortcuts, whew, they will save you so much time. Instead of right-clicking and virtual copy, right-clicking, virtual copy, Command apostrophe, and keep making them. I love that. All right, then remember to get rid of the virtual copies. Go to Attribute, and then, so I'm just going to click on this, and we click on, all right, None, Attribute. What to get? I just want, come on now, clear these. There we go. Just click on the virtual copy, okay? Not the master photos, just on the virtual copies, and then it's going to highlight your virtual copies if you want to get rid of them like I do. I tend to not want them in there. Once I'm done with them. Okay, let's see. Okay, one last question. It's a very good one. All right, how do I get the before and after zoom soft proofing to show? All right, so what she's asking about is, whoop, move this, I have to move stuff out of my way so I can see. When they're in the develop module, in order to see the before and after and all that, that's your toolbar. So if you're not seeing it, just hit T on your keyboard. Now, if you're not seeing, say, before and after, zoom, things like that, click on this little triangle way over to the right, and it says, if you hover over it, it's going to pop out and tell you select toolbar content. Click on that, and now you can choose what you want to see. So I have unchecked rating, color label, slideshow, because I don't tend to use those or access them in this toolbar. So I just took them out so it's not as much clutter for me. All right. I do like the zoom, of course, right? View modes, all right? And soft proofing, which I'm not getting into soft proofing right now, but I'll show you this. Another very handy keyboard shortcut is just the Y key. So at any point, now you see that it's Y right here when we're not in the brushes or white balance or things like that, right? So the before and after goes away, doesn't it? So what if you want to compare right now? If you want to say, okay, well, I want to see what the before and after is if I choose this. You'd have to click done or put it back, and then we get the choice over here. I'm going to go back. All right. So knowing this little keyboard shortcut is very handy, and it's just Y. You can do Y at any point, whether you're in the brush tool or anything like that. Y will go to the before and after for you. The other shortcut that I want to tell you is the tab key. The tab key will, come on. There we go. The tab key will collapse your sidebars, your right and left side panels, and you hit tab to get them back. But that way you can see it a little bit bigger. Okay. Now, when you're not in a specific tool like the white balance dropper or the one of the local adjustments, you might want to zoom in and out. And sometimes the zooming can be really frustrating. Like you can't get it to what you want it to. And typically I zoom with Command plus or Command minus, right? But maybe it doesn't give me exactly what I want. This zoom right here can help get you exactly what you want. All right, if you want to zoom in, but it's not where you want, just click and drag. Oops, click and drag the image a little bit. And then you can compare side by side. But this zoom feature will help you get more of what you want. So it's too little, a little bit more, we can come out, go to fit, fill 1/16, and so on. So I love that zoom. But sometimes just Command plus, Command minus is not going to get you what you want. Okay, I do have to stop.